Okay, I'm about to get petty. I'm about to get quite annoyed. Now, before I escalate to that point, there is something that I'd like to read to you. But before I start anything, that everything I say here is stated on my opinion, and it's based on my perspectives and understanding of the facts. I do not want you to go out and harass anybody that I talk about in my videos. It's not worth you losing your freedom, your mind, or anything else. Don't go after these people unless you have valid proof that they are a danger to themselves and to others. And a content warning, things are going to get kind of spicy on here. I'm not in a good mood today. And on top of that, I'm getting sick of pieces of shit like this thing that you see before you get away with stuff. Okay? So, and I may drop the F bomb every now and then. So be prepared. All right. So I did write out a little bit of a script. It's not really a script, just sort of a reference page. And I'm hoping that it will be helpful in terms of keeping track of some of the stuff about Katie Joy's behavior. So don't mind me. Okay? All right, so now before I delve into any of this, just let me make it clear that what I'm about to discuss is based on observations and my opinions. Katie Joy has been accused of some pretty serious things, including doxing and harassing people, of course. She's even known to accuse others of being in a cult or supporting certain individuals if they don't agree with her narrative. Now, what's interesting is how some of her behaviors align with the traits often associated with cult leaders. There has been a lot of talk about Katie using her channel as a way to recruit, as a way to um, harass and harm people, and that in itself is a cult. She has been labeled as a cult leader, a cultist, a cuntist, all of those things. And yes, I did use that word. I said I would not use because I am so sick and tired of this shit with Katie Joy. And I'm not going to retract it this time. I would not use it under any other circumstances. But after what has happened, that's it. All bets are off. Now, according to an article by Joe Navarro in the Psychology Today, it was dated back in 2012. There are several traits to watch out for. I believe that they listed 47. I'm only going to cover a few, and that link is in the description for your reference. And let me know what you think if Katie Joy is a cultist by that definition, if she's a cult leader or you think she exhibits some of those traits. Now, I'm not convinced that she's running a cult at this point, but she does exhibit certain behaviors. But those behaviors pre-existed any label she might have earned by doing and saying what she is doing now. Some of the stuff that she is saying is quite chilling. But that's up for you to interpret, to make your own opinions about. Now, one of the first things that I noticed, now I'm not going to enumerate these. You will find them in the list. I'm also delighted to point out the few that I concentrated on in this video. She has the exaggerated sense of power and entitlement. Katie seems to believe she's above the rules, often bending them or even breaking laws without so much regard for consequences. That is one of those traits that I think she possesses. That is ever so clear in how she interacted with her neighbors, how she responded to the police, telling them what they can or cannot do in response to wellness checks, in response to issues with her dogs or anything else. She has no problem getting people to call law enforcement to harass and arrest her opponent in a lawsuit so that she can get out of it. But she wants none of that herself when she is behind a lot of these problems. Another trait is labeling critics as enemies. While Katie might not use the exact term, she often dismisses anyone who questions her as being part of a cult or supporting someone she's targeted. Sorry, yes. So now this can mean a number of things. How I interpret this is that Katie Joy um, you know, Katie Joy is tends to target people who do not obey her, who do not give her obedience. She has, of course, herself been accused of being these things, being a cult leader and stuff, but she projects a lot and aggressively calls other people cult members, individuals as cults, making strange references like that, and that anybody who does not believe her or this docu-series, they're either in a cult, they are either cults themselves, or they support Robert Chin, who she thinks is equivalent to Jim Jones, when I think Katie is an ersatz Jim Jones herself. I firmly believe Katie is trying to get Miranda Derrick harmed and killed. She has not made any of those threats directly, but doxing someone's house, making fiery accusations, and using this to go after her because Katie Joy is being sued speaks volumes. And I'm scared that Katie will be responsible for someone's serious injury or death. Katie wants her enemies destroyed, whether it's financially, socially, professionally, or their very lives. This is a very unhinged and dangerous woman, in my opinion. And referring to anybody as being in a cult, being cultists themselves, being a cult, or supporting Robert Chin, she is directing that same fiery direction to go after them because Katie's assets, Katie's money, Katie's well being is the only God that she worships. Keep that in mind. Now, she also indulges in the public devaluation of others. We've seen Katie verbally abuse people, shame them for their possessions, and even spread lies about their background and actions. What the hell does she think she's doing now? How can anyone deny exactly what she is doing now? throwing these accusations at Robert Shin. That doesn't mean that something didn't happen. But Katie has lied about rape before. She has lied about being raped. She's lied about being sexually assaulted or harassed. She has lied about being a victim of a hate crime when none of those things have any evidence or any discernible trace of truth connected to that, in my opinion. There is nothing to indicate that these have occurred. She did that to get back at people, either because they didn't give them her loyalty, her love, her obedience, anything. She will do it again, and it will manifest into blaming somebody else for raping other people. Katie is not a supporter of sexual abuse victims or rape victims or victims of a cult. Katie is a sick, twisted, perverted, middle-aged woman who I believe has used her sexuality to manipulate and malign and destroy people's lives, in my opinion. She has sex shamed people, as we have seen in those leaked DMs, shaming people's reproductive systems, their reproductive health care, and throwing ageist tropes at them, which are all very dangerous things in a very visceral manner, in a very personal manner, because nobody else can have sexual autonomy, can express ongoing consent. Nobody can take their own experiences and come forward with them or work through them behind the scenes without Katie Joy's permission, without Katie Joy being able to profit off of that suffering. And she has also denigrated people for having things, because Katie Joy collects things. She collects things in the way that she collects people. She resents people for having Bentleys, for Ugg boots, for Teslas, for having complicated relationships with parents and making the decision of trying to work out with their parents, or dealing with their parents in a way that they see acceptable. Katie doesn't like anybody else to have any kind of autonomy whatsoever. Katie values things and amasses money, because that's all that matters. Relationships, partnerships, bonds with other human beings. She doesn't give a shit about her son, her animals, her husband, nothing. And she doesn't even give a crap about a house that was gifted to her because the roof is caving in on her. If that's not a sign of things crumbling, I don't know what is. For someone who's supposedly making a shit ton of money exploiting people, she has done absolutely fuck all to rehabilitate it or do anything meaningful with her family other than to lash out, other than to put other people in danger. Nobody else is responsible for Katie Joy's mental illness, her emotional instability, or anything else but Katie Joy. Nobody's responsible for her pain and suffering. Now, the other thing that I found really compelling, now it may not match what Katie Joy is, but let's not forget about the concealing background, her family. Katie has been caught lying about her own past, and while she might have experienced hardships, she tends to embellish or even fabricate stories to fit her narrative. We've often seen where she has stitched other people's lives together into content, into entertainment. She's done that with other people's work, other people's online identities, taking them on. If she has not experienced trauma or anything, she is the most mediocre, boring fucking thing to exist on the planet. She suffers from eternal boredom, and she uses this chaos as excitement and thrill seeking. You can see her practically giggling at every time she talks about how much somebody is in trouble and doing this or doing that or being accused of this and that, and the way that she talks about CSA. She seems to get off on all of that, in my opinion. It is disgusting. It is reprehensible. So, I want to know, when is enough for Katie Joy? When is enough is enough for her? Is it going to be when one of her opponents ends up dead because of something she does, or harmed, or bankrupt? Because that would make her happier than watching her son grow up to be a strong man. Watching people who have taken on their own autonomy and their own rights to defend themselves against this creature. She perceives that as a threat, and she wants nothing more than to watch the pain and suffering of others. She gets off on it. That makes her more happy than anything else. She doesn't care about her victims. She doesn't care about women. She talks about women fiercely and vehemently while putting other women in grave danger. If you follow Katie Joy, I urge you to do your research. Don't take my word for it. Go request a FOIA request for yourself. Match it up to anything that she has said. This is a woman who will lie, cheat, and steal to get where she is. Everything that she has ever worked for in here was based on lies and deceit and selfishness. She has a foundation of toothpicks holding her up, and she's pretty heavy with all of those burdensome traits and her morbidly obese ego. And personally, I hope that this lawsuit rips a fucking hole in her finances, because that is the only thing that will teach her any kind of lesson, and perhaps the loss of her freedom for any criminal action that could come forward based on her behavior. But that's a long shot. I say that, but I also say that her son deserves money, he deserves love, he deserves things, and I would say totally bankrupt her. I can't say that, but I hope that they take away that fucking BMW so she has to get a regular car. I hope they pull the Botox needles out of her face. I hope that they take the drugs she's putting up her nose. I hope it's taken from her to teach her a lesson. That's how I feel. Whether she's in a cult or not, I don't know, but I would really like to hear your ideas and thoughts. Leave them in the comments. Take care. Good night.